Welcome to Innovating Clinical Trials, the podcast designed for clinical research professionals eager to deepen their understanding of clinical trials through concise, insightful segments. Join your hosts, Liam Eves and Ted Trafford, as they uncover the core issues in clinical research, reflect on the industry, and challenge conventional wisdom.
Hey Ted, how are you, sir?
Liam, I'm doing great. It's spring, so I'm always happy when we're moving towards summer and out of winter. Winter in Canada is just ridiculous at times. So,
Are you doing any photography at the minute?
I am, and springtime's a spectacular time for doing wildlife photography. So, I'm loving that, spending time in nature, and I always see the most incredible things and have experiences that you'll only ever experience if you spend ridiculous amounts of time out in nature. Otherwise, and then of course, with the equipment that I have, I take photos with a 500 millimeter lens, which is a really super telephoto lens, and it really brings you into their world.
Wow!
So that I'm not like viewing them from a distance. It makes you feel like you're immersed in it. So it's a really amazing experience. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah,
What is it? It must be like keep you very sort of like present and just
you
like
have
say,
to be.
Yeah, you can't be anything else.
Yeah, like if you're not present, you're going to miss the opportunity. And if you're off in your own little world and thinking about whatever else, you risk missing. And believe me, I miss lots of great shots.
Yeah.
Or I think I've got something, and I look at the shot later when I'm editing, and it's just like, oh no, I missed it. But then, there's other times where I know right away, I got the moment and captured that. In my wildlife photography, I like to have a picture that tells a story. So it takes you into the world of that creature. And not just, an animal just sitting there.
Yeah.
Animal portraits are fine, but I much prefer it when I'm getting some kind of an action, or having the whole scene that actually brings you into their world and says, oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So we'll get onto the topics of the podcast in a minute. But
this isn't a photography podcast.
Yeah, we're going in a new direction here.
We're going to have a spin-off, innovating wildlife photography.
Yeah, Liam asks questions. And is there like a different? Do you find that there's to that sort of like action shot? Are there different levels of action depending on the time of year that you get? Like there's just more activity happening in spring than winter,
Well, in spring in Canada, you're getting the migrations. So you're getting the waterfowl and the birds moving through, heading to where they're going to spend summer, and so in Canada that typically means a lot of birds coming up from the U.S. and on their way through, they're pausing for a period of time here where I live, and then making their way north where they'll spend the rest of the summer. Wow. And then they make their way south again in the fall. So capturing them in between has an incredible variety of birds coming through. And then there's the mating rituals of different animals. So for example, right now the wild turkeys are in that season of their life. So the male turkeys are putting on an incredible show. They're, they puff themselves up and they strut around, and it's the seasonality is really important.
I love it. That's so good. I'm after, there's not much wildlife other than the people around where I am. So I need to perhaps get a bit more into that.
And people are interesting wildlife too.
Yeah, we can watch them all day.
Yeah. Wow. So on to clinical trials. I it was funny. I dug up this poem I had written a while ago, and I thought I'd share it with you and our listeners today, and then we can have a bit of a discussion about it. So if you want, I can kind of dive in.
Yeah, let's do that.
We'll do the poem, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds great.
Okay. Collaborating for novel solutions is why we are here. But is our industry getting it wrong? That's what I fear. Necessary burdens are those that are required to achieve the trial outcomes. That's what's desired. Infusions, PK visits, even tech have their place, but still are a burden, and it's what we must face. It's unnecessary burdens that cost sites a ton. There are endless examples of the silliness that's done. 50-page consents are such an epic fail. Whoever writes them should go to clinical trial jail. Slightly high BMI is a study exclusion in too many studies, causing participant seclusion. The tech that doesn't work comes at a huge cost. Participants dealing with issues are routinely lost. Trial finances are increasingly a struggle for sites. Holdbacks, delays, low margins cause sleepless nights. Reduced motivation due to delays and bad tech, sites silently quitting cause your study to wreck. A message for all, and with this I say please, stop hiring away all of our CRCs. We'll have no one left to conduct all the trials, but we'll still carry on managing study files. The definition of sites is something we're rearranging, but beware, we'll lose sites while the industry's changing. Sites need the support of the sponsors they cherish. Without it, the burdens may cause them to perish. Never in history have trials held such potential. Achieving it means listening to sites is essential. A great future of trials is one we can lead. More engagement with sites is the answer we need.
Love it. I don't know how you do that. It's pretty remarkable.
I actually remember when I wrote this particular poem, I was sitting waiting for one of my kids, and I was in the parking lot of a coffee shop, and I had my notebook with me, and I was going to be presenting at the CNS Summit meeting and about, site burden. And so I sat down and I said, I need something creative, and it just started pouring out, and that's the typical writing process. And when it's going, it's going.
Well, I mean, gosh, there was, I like the stop hiring the CRCs.
A lot of this stuff is like current things that are just happening, and how do you share it? How do you bring attention to it?
Well, it's really interesting because, like, you could have written that poem 10, 20 years ago, and it'd still be relevant
right
now. Which is just, like, for me, just absolutely wild that we still are struggling with
the same basic things. Yeah, you're right. Our industry's changing so fast, and it doesn't change at all.
Yeah.
So we're going through the same lessons, the same struggles.
Is there anything in that? When did you write? There's a couple of questions, I guess, bundled into it. Like, is there anything in that poem that wasn't true when you first started, or at least after a couple of years of starting to getting to know the space? Because from what I remember of it, there's nothing. It's just more of a compounding.
You know what? So when I started, we didn't have 50-page consents. So that is something that has compounded much longer over the years. So just looking at the poem, and that's something that's gotten worse. Obviously, the tech we had when I started wasn't nearly as widespread as it is now, and has created a much bigger problem. Like, one of the the things the investigators tell me is that a study visit in 2026 takes twice as long as a study visit 10 years ago, before all of these portals and tablets and all of that was really, widespread in clinical trials. So the more tech we introduce actually makes the study visits more complicated and a higher burden on the participants.
Yeah. Well, I know, because there's a couple of stats that I was reviewing for a presentation, actually, a conference presentation not long ago, was looking at that complexity and how it has compounded over the last 15 years. It was something like the number of endpoints had increased by 40%. The number of procedures had increased by around the same amount, around 40%. The number of planned visits had increased by about 45%. And then what was fascinating to me out of it all, to that patient perspective, is that 1 in 3 procedures were not supporting a primary or key secondary endpoint.
It was just more data. Yeah. One of the things, so it's not all doom and gloom. So one of the things that's really interesting, I'm even just thinking over the last week that I've had, and I've had some amazing conversations and engagements with sponsors. So in a couple of cases, they were small, medium-sized biotech. And then conversation I had this week with big pharma, where I had a really large group of sponsor representatives on the phone and engaging us about our perspective on the whole process. Right. And some genuine interest from the sponsor side in how do we make these studies better? What are the issues that you're seeing that are preventing this, and what are some of the are preventing the studies from executing well? And what's your perspective in how we can? What are some of the ideas so that we can improve them? And that's really encouraging. Because 30 years ago we didn't have that.
God, no.
And so it's exciting. I love those conversations. Always happy to provide feedback to our sponsors about how we can work together to improve these studies.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really well-made point, Ted, because it's something that I've certainly seen probably for the last maybe 3-4 years, in which the sponsors are trying to get closer to the action, so to speak, or closer to the sites, or the patients as a proxy. And I think that those type of things are so critical. Like there's a number of groups in similar vein and talking about the ICF, informed consent, and it was fascinating to hear the sponsor side saying, okay, we need to simplify this as much as we can. It's complicated because there's legal regulatory hoops we've obviously got to go through, and there's but we need to ultimately make it so the patient understands. And that was like a sentiment that came up so many times, which I think that I think that I don't think that the industry is necessarily paying just lip service to some of these things anymore. I think there's some real proactive understanding, at least.
And it's not all sponsors and CROs, but some of them are leaning in. And that's encouraging. Hopefully more do. And start to understand a little better the impact of the decisions that they're making.
I love it. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. It's really good.
Great chatting with you today, Liam. I hope you have a great day.
You too. Take care.
Bye. I hope you enjoyed the poem from today's episode. The Innovating Clinical Trials podcast is intended to be thought-provoking. If today's episode made you think, we did our job. Do you have a topic you'd like us to discuss on the Innovating Clinical Trials podcast? If so, Follow Innovating Clinical Trials Podcast on LinkedIn and message us there, or through our website at innovatingclinicaltrials.com. Be sure to follow the podcast on your favorite streaming service. While you're there, give us a like or rate the podcast. The Innovating Clinical Trials Podcast is hosted by Liam Eves and Ted Trafford and is produced by Tarini Chakurthi. Opinions expressed are those of the participants and not their respective employers.